Hello YouTubers, this is the Noobifier, and welcome to an investigation into identifying why some people experience unplayable frames, and why others can consistently post frames between 40 and 60. I recently posted 3 videos which include my own 3.0 game footage. They're linked up for you right now, and they're also in the description. The comments for those illustrated to me how much of an issue frames actually are. Some citizens simply said, "I wish I had your frames," and others flat out challenged my credibility by accusing me of manipulating the footage. As it turns out, that footage was so good that even CIG used it as B-roll on last week's Around the Verse. So what am I doing right, and why don't I experience what some others do? Is it just a vocal minority of low-frame players? Originally I thought so, but now I'm not so sure. I will say that for most of 2.6.1, .2, and .3, the PU was completely unplayable for me. I would experience average frames of 10 to 15, but in Arena Commander, I could easily average over 110 frames with that usual stutter that you'd experience in multiplayer PvP matches. I did explore playing PU offline in 2.6.3. I did that because frames were actually tied to the server and not necessarily to your hardware. Running offline was the first time that the PU made sense. The lighting, motion blur, and textures were very easily next generation and invigorated my excitement in what was being built. Offline is a breach of the Terms of Service agreement. You risk action against your account if you alter the game files and play offline. It also completely defeats the point of playtesting an alpha, as no useful information will be collected. Just before the holidays, Chris Roberts posted a rare personal message on Spectrum dealing with performance scaling against hardware. As a Star Citizen content creator, I have a set of topics on a very short list that I purposely avoid. Minimum system requirements has always been on that list. In spite of server throttling, it's pretty obvious that Star Citizen Alpha can't have too much hardware thrown at it. Having more CPU, RAM, or graphics won't make the game run worse. What I thought was basically confirmed in that December message from Chris Roberts. As a PC gamer, I've always invested time during the winter months playing online with my friends. I've always considered the value based on how much time I would spend against the cost of the upgrades. My system has always been very strong, and this has recently been compounded by becoming a content creator. As it turns out, a very fast gaming PC is also a very capable video editing PC. I make a deliberate decision to never use tweaks or hacks to improve performance. I want to see the actual state of the game, so when I make an assessment in the video, my impression isn't jaded. With that, I've never used color adjustment, removed motion blur, unparked cores, or any of the other common suggestions that you might find on Reddit. I use default key bindings, default curves, and default dead zones. All this is to ensure my Star Citizen experience is vanilla. My system is as follows: an i7-7700K at 5.1 GHz, 32 gigs of G-Skill RAM at 3600 MHz, one Samsung 960 EVO M.2 NVMe, one Intel 600p NVMe, a 1080 Ti, and all the other stuff that you would need to make a PC work. I'm not a game developer, I'm not a system tester, and I don't work within the computer industry. My first computer was a Commodore VIC-20, and I'm very comfortable working with computers. Armed with the December suggestions from Chris Roberts and what I read from the community, I decided to do my own general testing. I started with storage. I installed Star Citizen on a 3TB Western Digital Red hard drive. These aren't known for their speed, as they're meant to be used in small servers. I also tested an older Kingston 240GB SATA SSD. My observed load times were crippling on both the SATA SSD and the physical hard drive. From launching PU, I would normally wait 20 to 30 seconds on my Samsung NVMe M.2 SSD. The SATA Kingston SSD took 77 and 90 seconds out of 2 runs. The Western Digital Red hard drive took 185 seconds and 220 seconds out of 2 runs. Frames are also hurt by the speed of the drive. It seems that Star Citizen is capable of maxing out a hard drive's bandwidth. Right after loading, the frames start fine as usual and then quickly degrade, resulting in stuttering. The hard drive activity light went on and basically stayed on. My player experience was unplayable on a physical hard drive. The older SATA SSD also resulted in less than my usual experience. I'm sure that if any background application started to task that drive, it would saturate the bandwidth and perform like a hard drive. Next, I tested memory size and memory speed, as this was the second point highlighted by Chris Roberts. Downclocking the speed of 32 gigs of RAM to 2133 from 3600 resulted in no noticeable change. Returning the clocks but removing 2 of the 4 sticks resulted in a loss of frames, and I started to experience stuttering. It wasn't as crippling as the hard drive, but there was a noticeable average drop of 5 to 7 frames, plus more frequent stutters. When I returned my system to stock, it also returned my performance to what I was used to. Memory and hard drive selection is as important as CPU and graphics. I think it's pretty funny, but this is the first title since Crisis that this has been true. Your personal assessment of what constitutes a very high-end system may need to reflect a new standard. Your choice of screen resolution will also need to be considered. I chose a 2560 by 1080 monitor over a 4K because I'd rather have a balance of high frames and good picture quality. Jumping to 4K will double the render load and may cut your frames in half. Your geographic location, network latency, and network reliability will also need to be considered. Operating on a wireless network or when sharing a lower bandwidth connection with other members in your house can contribute to reduced experience. I'm going to sum up this video with one final consideration. As we install devices and use our computers, we build up a library of drivers and applications. When you hit stability issues, it might be difficult to figure out which one of them is the cause. When 3.0 went live, I couldn't get starcitizen to launch. I spent one full weekend performing clean installs of Windows and full driver sets. There were a lot of suggestions on the forums: G-Sync, Shadowplay, changing to full frame windowed, removing overclocks, you name it, it was there. Ultimately, my particular issue had to do with any software that would produce an overlay. When I launched starcitizen, I now need to close Discord and I need to disable the activity icon in Shadowplay. If I don't do that, starcitizen won't launch. That's it. Playing this alpha can be frustrating even if your system's running very well. It's completely understandable that some players get so frustrated that they feel the need to vent into social media. starcitizen's being made to release in 2 or more years. A completely overkill system by today's standards will become the normal and common. Please post your thoughts in the comment section of this video. Please help me get my findings to a wider audience by linking this to a friend or in your org's Discord. My goal is to grow this channel, and I can't do that without the help of citizens like you. Fly safe, and I'll see you in the verse.